The library's head librarian stood behind Margaret Chen's desk, hands on hips, voice tight with frustration. The entire system is locked. IT support says someone hacked us. They want $50,000 in Bitcoin or they delete everything. All our records, all our patron data, everything. Margaret continued shelving books, her movements slow and methodical, exactly as everyone expected from the 58-year-old woman they called the old librarian. "Did you try turning it off and on again?" the head librarian asked with barely concealed condescension. "That's usually what fixes computer problems for people your age." Margaret had spent the last 15 minutes analyzing the ransomware attack through the reflection in her glasses while pretending to organize the mystery section. She'd identified the encryption method, a modified AES-256 variant, sophisticated but not unbreakable. She'd traced the IP address through 7 proxy servers to a location in Eastern Europe, and she'd decided whether this small-town library system was worth revealing that Margaret Chen had once been the NSA's most decorated intelligence analyst who'd broken into foreign networks that had taken entire teams years to build. Apparently, it was. The Millbrook Public Library sat on Main Street in a town of 8,000 people, a 2-story brick building that smelled of old paper and floor polish. Margaret had worked there for 8 years, arriving each morning at 8 a.m. to unlock the doors, shelving returns, helping patrons find books, teaching basic computer classes. She wore cardigan sweaters in muted colors, sensible shoes, reading glasses on a chain. Her dark hair, now streaked with gray, was always pulled back in a simple bun. She spoke softly, moved slowly, exactly what people expected from a small-town librarian. The teenage volunteers would film her struggling with basic tasks for their TikToks, laughing at how she hunted and pecked at the keyboard. Nobody questioned her, nobody looked twice, and that was exactly how Margaret had designed it. What nobody in Millbrook knew was that Margaret Chen had spent 27 years at the National Security Agency, rising from junior analyst to Deputy Director of the Tailored Access Operations Unit, the people who got into systems that were supposed to be impossible to penetrate. She'd broken Chinese military encryption in 2001. She'd mapped Russian intelligence networks in 2008. She'd identified the digital fingerprints of 3 major terrorist organizations before they could execute attacks on American soil, saving thousands of lives. She'd testified before closed Senate committees, briefed presidents on classified programs. And then, in 2015, everything had fallen apart. A mission she'd planned had been compromised. 2 field agents had been killed. The investigation cleared her, but Margaret never cleared herself. 3 months later, she'd resigned, signed the NDAs, and disappeared. Now, standing in the library while Patricia Morrison panicked about ransomware, Margaret made the calculation she'd hoped never to make again. Tricia was on the phone with County IT, voice edged with panic. "They're saying it could take weeks to rebuild the system. Yes, I understand we should have had better backups." Margaret walked to her desk, where her ancient computer sat frozen with a red screen, displaying a Bitcoin wallet address and countdown timer. 5 hours and 47 minutes until permanent deletion. She looked at Patricia's panicked face, then at the elderly patron asking if computers would be working today, then at the teenage volunteers filming the chaos. And she made her decision. "I can fix this," Margaret said quietly. Patricia turned, phone still pressed to her ear. "What?" "The ransomware. I can remove it, but I'll need everyone to leave the building for about an hour." Patricia's laugh was sharp with stress. "Margaret, you can barely send an email. This isn't something you can fix by turning it off and on again. These are professional hackers." Margaret looked up and for just a moment let the mask slip. Her posture straightened, her eyes sharpened. "I know exactly what this is, Patricia, and I know exactly how to stop it. I have a PhD in cryptography from MIT, Margaret continued, her voice taking on authority Patricia had never heard. "Full scholarship, 1987. I worked signals intelligence for 27 years at the NSA, rising to Deputy Director of Tailored Access Operations. The ransomware is a modified version of Ryuk, AES 256 encryption, routing through Transnistria via compromised routers in 7 countries. They're competent, but not exceptional. I've seen this pattern before. She pulled off her reading glasses, and somehow without them she looked different, sharper, younger. I can fix it if you evacuate this building in 5 minutes. The silence was absolute. Patricia slowly lowered her phone. You worked for the NSA? I ran one of their most classified units. I broke into foreign networks. I identified threats that would have killed thousands. I briefed presidents. Then I retired and chose the quietest job I could find. She looked directly at Patricia. Now, do you trust me? Patricia made the call. 10 minutes later, Margaret was alone. She locked doors, pulled shades, and stopped pretending. Her fingers flew across a laptop from her drawer, custom Linux with tools most hackers never see. 5 minutes, bypassed infected network. 10 minutes, isolated 3 malware variants. 15 minutes, traced to actual infrastructure. Then her instincts screamed. This sophistication didn't match a small library target. Digging deeper, she found the truth. The ransomware was camouflage. Someone was using the library network to probe county infrastructure connected to state systems, power grids, water treatment, emergency services. This wasn't about money. This was reconnaissance for something much bigger. For 40 minutes, Margaret worked with the intensity that earned her the nickname the Ghost, moving through systems without traces. She built a honeypot trap, reinforced security with military protocols, documented attack infrastructure. Then she turned it around. Using attackers' infrastructure against them, she traced to Bucharest, identified individuals, documented previous attacks across 3 states. She compiled an intelligence report, encrypted it with her own algorithm, and sent it to her former NSA supervisor, someone she'd promised never to contact again. Then she restored systems and returned to her desk as Patricia walked back in. Patricia returned with confused patrons. Margaret sat sipping tea. Screens showed everything normal. How? Patricia couldn't finish. Dylan, a teenage volunteer, approached skeptically. My brother works IT, said ransomware's impossible to reverse. Margaret smiled gently. Your brother's right usually, but this had a flaw in key generation. If you understand elliptic curve cryptography and AES 256 variants, it's just a puzzle. Dylan stared like she'd spoken another language. Next morning, Patricia waited with coffee and search results. I researched all night. MIT confirmed everything. Found your papers with 2,000 citations. You won competitions beating major companies. Then disappeared in 1995. She paused. County IT called. Someone sent analysis of an attack using our library to access state infrastructure, capabilities that shouldn't exist outside federal intelligence. Attack neutralized, arrests made in Romania. Who here has those skills? Margaret was quiet for a long moment. I came here to be invisible. 3 decades solving problems, carrying weight where mistakes meant deaths. I thought disappearing was the answer. But watching people struggle with problems I can solve just to maintain a fiction, that's not peace. That's cowardice. Yesterday I realized those skills I tried to bury. They're part of me. Pretending they don't exist doesn't make them go away. So what now? Patricia asked. Now I'm still the librarian, still do story time, help patrons, but maybe I teach digital security classes, help this town protect itself. Maybe people learn the old librarian they mock could hack their phones mid-laugh. She smiled. I'm done pretending I'm less than I am. 6 months later, Millbrook Library became a regional cybersecurity center. Margaret still arrived at 8 a.m. in cardigans and sensible shoes. But twice weekly, she taught encryption, security, privacy to students, business owners, seniors. Teenagers who'd mocked her now asked career advice. The board called her their invaluable expert. Dylan became her assistant. Parents thanked her. Businesses credited her with preventing breaches. The newspaper ran a feature, Millbrook's Hidden Hero. Late nights, Margaret worked on projects she never discussed. NSA consultations, threat analyses, quiet protection work. She'd learned you didn't choose between librarian and analyst. You could be both. Help someone find a book at 10 a.m. Stop cyber attacks at 10 p.m. The difference was balance and boundaries. Hiding capabilities didn't make you safe. It made you complicit. Some skills don't fade. Some people are exactly what they seem, until they stop pretending. Margaret spent 8 years invisible. Now she'd learned visibility didn't mean losing herself, just being honest about all her parts: quiet librarian and digital ghost, small-town helper and national security protector. Both were real. Both mattered. Both could exist in one person, in one small-town library on Main Street. If you enjoyed this story of hidden brilliance and the power of underestimated expertise, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and smash that like button for more powerful stories of people who proved that age is just a number and that the most dangerous capabilities often hide behind the most ordinary appearances. What would you have done in Margaret's situation? Would you have revealed your skills to save the library or maintained your anonymity? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from today? Let us know your country in the comments. We love hearing from our amazing community around the world.